Well, hello friends. We are going out to my mom's backyard today, and I'm going to finish up planting a few of the planters I had to do at mom's house that I haven't gotten done. You know, I kind of like to take my leisure time in the spring and early summer to plant things up because everything's changing so much. Weather can change that I try not to just push myself and get it all done at once. I think it's fun to kind of go with the flow. So we're in mom's backyard, which I had put this new flower bed in, I think it was last year, with a lot of you. And I planted a lot of these perennials and shrubs, and I have a big urn in the middle. Yeah, I love urns, I still do, always will. And I want to pot it up. So mom has a fire pit area over here, and then this bed kind of flanks it. We have a 3-flower maple kind of on a berm, and then lots of beautiful things, firelight hydrangeas, turkey rhubarb, which is an ornamental rhubarb. This is just the second year for it, and look how big some of it is getting. I love turkey rhubarb. I think it is so fun. I love the foliage. It's just these massive leaves, great texture, and then we have the Sun King Aurelia behind it, which is that great kind of variant of color. Solomon seal way back in the back. There's just a lot of fun things. Culver's root, which is really going to take off this year. So this urn is kind of a focal point in this whole bed. And I really just like to make it something that's going to be really statement and really stand out. So you can see I have my soil already in there. Now, I know some people always say like, why are your urns rusty? All my urns are always authentic, antique, cast iron urns. Yes, I could paint them. I kind of like this quality of them because for me, it makes it feel like they've been maybe in the garden for a long time and have a story. And I just like to keep that patina on them. So I have it on a big limestone plinth that just kind of brings it up, elevates it, gives it more of a focal statement, just something worthy of like a wow impact. So I have lots of annuals in my back, and what I do, I just put things in the back of my gator. Here they are. And you can see my gator is my roving cart all summer long. It has everything in it. It has my leaf blower when I need it, has shovels, rake, my garden trug, just whenever I need things. Always has my favorite all-purpose garden soil. I know, everything's loud, but always has my all-purpose potting soil in it too in case I need it, which I already filled this planter with, but I have not put in my plant tone yet, which you know I love to put in containers. I just think it adds some great nutrients, gives it a little bit of organic fertilizer just to help it grow over the summer. So what I'm gonna plant in this one are kind of a fun variety. So I'm doing some sun-loving alocasia or elephant ear, super fun, heart of the jungle, these are called. And I love them because look at the color. Now, these are small right now, but they get big. They can get really big, 36, 40, 50 inches in their element. Now, these are in containers, so they probably won't get too big, but I'm definitely gonna expect them to get, a couple feet, if not more, over the growing season, which I love. And they love the sun, which is really exciting to me. My grandma always planted elephant ear, but she had just the green ones, which we still plant as bulbs every year. But these have this beautiful dark burgundy stem. I love them. So they're a little bit ready to get in the ground. They've been sitting for a while. So I'm excited to put these kind of as the focal. And then of course, I'm gonna do kind of some of my favorites again. The lemon coral sedum, which I think will be really fun because it has that great variance against the darker colors to really set it off. And then I'm also gonna put in some purple lady because I like how it plays and kind of repeats the purple idea that's going on in the stems down in here, which will be really fun. And depending if there's room, I might put in, we'll see, either some straw flower or something. But what I am gonna start with is doing some plant tone. You know I love to put this in my containers. So I just sprinkle it in since I have my soil in there already. I'm just gonna sprinkle it around and then just work it in with my hand. So you can see it's just pretty easy. You don't need to necessarily go all the way to the bottom of the pot because those roots of those plants are really shallow and they're not gonna be working down to the bottom of the pot. So right now, it's gonna be right where they need it to be. So you know me, I like to sometimes overfill planters, and this isn't an overly deep planter, but it has a good amount of surface area. So I'm gonna put a few of these here in the middle. It could probably take just one, but let's look here. I'm gonna get it out and we're gonna kind of see what it looks like to have. Sizing for me sometimes, I need to see it once it's in the container and then know what I can really put around it. I think we're probably gonna do just one, but I like to lay it out sometimes and really see where we're gonna be at and know the sizing we're gonna need. So you can see here, this container is probably only 18 inches across, maybe 20 inches. And so even just one of these already in the center, and when I put annuals around it, you can see it'll be pretty big. And if I want roots to be able to get the moisture they need, I don't want to overcrowd it in the beginning. So things I always look at is on the back of a tag, I'll always check the sizing. Now this says 36 to 60 inches. We don't have, we have the summer months, but it's not going to be in the ground for so long that it will get to 60 inches most likely, but it could get up to that 36. height, and it could also get that wide. Now, and again, in this container, it won't get that wide. It's gonna more be a focal piece. Think of like traditionally a spike or other things would be in the center. So I think when I'm setting this one here, I think just one will be enough. And look how pretty already that is, but once it really starts setting in and gets the heat of the summer, it's really gonna start growing. Now with everything, you know, I love to break up the roots just slightly. This one is not, to me, too tight, so I just have to break them up very, very lightly at the bottom and see how they just kind of hang there a little bit. That means they're gonna be ready to go into this native soil, the potting soil I put in here. Now, the reason we always use potting soil in a container is because you want it to drain properly. This urn has drainage at the bottom, so it will drain out the water, but you also want to make sure that it is a light enough weight that it really does. So I'm gonna pot this one up and then keep going. Okay, you can see that I have these planted in here. I actually really love the color and the play on foliage here we're gonna have. And this will, as time goes on with the heat, will really start expounding and get bigger. I do think I'm gonna just sneak in a couple small Heliochrysum I have, which is a licorice plant. I like this variety that is the Silver Star. It stays super small, has the tiny leaf on it, and really will just kind of bound over the plant and give a nice little foliage to set off the top. So I think we're gonna throw a couple of these in the sides. I know. You know, the thing with planters is every year you just kind of try something and you see what works. And these are ones that I've always loved, combinations and kind of overfilling the planter and just really making it set off. So these are really small starts, but guess what? In the heat of the summer, these are gonna really grow. And when these grow, they'll really come out over the side and billow down. And that's what I'm really looking for. So I'm gonna throw in another one. We'll be good to go. Okay, they're in there. And now the last bit will be to water it. So this one again, these things obviously will need to be watered well, especially when we get dry here in the summer. I'll have to watch for it. I don't have drip lines or anything, so it will be hand watered or watered with a hose that reaches the far reaches of the yard here when we can. But you can see already the fun play of colors. This is what to me always excites me, is when you can find textures and colors like this that really set each other off. So when you look here, you have this bright chartreusey green against this deep dark purple that plays well with the stem here, the green up here, and then you're getting this silvery foliage that has a little bit of darker notes underneath that will kind of billow in front. It will be really fun. And as always, you know I keep showing you throughout the season. Things obviously change a lot in the growing season, so I'll try to always take you along, whether it's in stories, give you updates here in videos, and let you know what's coming. But now we need to go to the front porch because I have a couple containers in front of the front porch that I put some caladium bulbs in that are just beginning to kind of show their eyes on top that I want to plant a few annuals around. Got my buddy. Okay, it was just a few feet away, but all my plants are up here on the gator, so it was just easier to bring it. So this is in front of Mom's front porch, and we have two large urns that are on stands that stand up behind the boxwood. So I have green velvet boxwood every so often, green mountain boxwood behind, and then bobo hydrangeas all along the front. They're super beautiful, and they're just like full of blooms come late July and on. So here in these planters, a few weeks ago, or about probably just 2 weeks ago, I planted some caladium bulbs, which I'm super excited about. And let's look here. If we kind of dig down a little bit, you can see now their little eyes are beginning to show, which means they're starting to set roots. Right there's another one. And they're gonna soon shoot up their growth for the season. Now, these are the Heart to Heart series, Hot to Trot, which they can take sun or shade. So they're a really fun color, which you can see on here. You can't see the color obviously because they're not blooming yet, but look at that fun color they're gonna have against Mom's white house and front porch. So obviously she sits out here in the evenings, especially over the summer, spring, summer, fall, and just like loves to enjoy, you know, a hot summer night, but outside. So these are gonna soon bloom, and not bloom, but bud out and grow, and I wanna put some annuals around them. So for these, I have a few different ones here. I love to do, in these containers, some Bridal Veil. That's mostly because it does super well in this semi-sun shade area. So this area right now you can see is shaded. Later in the afternoon it gets some sun, but these always do just really well. And it is kind of a simple plant, has that purple back, which again will go with the caladium well, green front, kind of glossy, and gets little white blooms on them. They're super pretty. Then I'm gonna put some different types of either the icicle heliochrysum, which is again in the licorice family plant, or some more of the silver star. We'll kind of see once we get them potted up. Okay, when I bring you in closer, at the moment you're gonna think it really looks like nothing special. That's because it doesn't. These are all small annuals. That's what's hard to know. So in the middle here, all those caladiums are soon gonna sprout and start to get bushy, and they're beautiful, bright colored leaves. All of these around here are gonna start, so these icicles get more mounded, but then both the silver star and this bridal veil get really trailing and big in front. So they'll really fill in around here. I already had the plant tone put in the container, so that's no problem. It's already set to go. Now I'm gonna go just pot up one more just like this, and we'll run back to my house maybe and do a couple things. Okay, so I just need to water these and then they'll be good to go. And again, we'll have to keep them somewhat watered, obviously, regularly throughout the summer. Now, these are in semi-shade, so they don't actually dry out as quickly as some things do. So definitely 1 to 2 times a week we'll have to water them. But they really will fill in so quickly when the heat of the summer really kicks in. I love that we start with small annuals, but then they fill in. So now I thought we'd go back to my house. I need to pot up a rosemary I have and another citrus tree, because I'm gonna always continually be trying citrus because we want what we can't have. And in Iowa, we can't grow them regularly, but we can grow them in containers. So I came back over to my backyard and I'm gonna pot up, I've had a rosemary that I need to plant and another citrus tree. I feel like I'm always on a citrus journey. You know, citrus sometimes do really well. There's a couple I've had for 3 years, maybe more, and they give me fruit. Over the winter when I bring them into my retrofitted plant room, which is not, it's not a greenhouse, so it's not ideal for citrus, but they hang on. They look a little scraggly by the end of winter, but then they go back outside and they look really well. And I set things like my patio figs, which are in containers, my citrus, my rosemary, my bay plants, all those get kind of set on this formal area where I have a fire pit. And so I'm gonna pot up a couple more things to set there because I'm always adding, because sometimes citrus happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always good to me to add it on. And I found some really nice ones, which in my area can be really hard to find nice citrus plants because you don't grow them in Iowa. So it's only for people that want to, you know, hobby have them in containers. So what I do is always just bring my gator to the back area because it's easier for me to pot them up and then just transport them right to where they need to be. So I have here a really nice rosemary. It's somewhat shaped already. A little bit of dead piece in it that I'm just gonna pluck out there. But it has a nice cone shape to it, which I really like. I think it's fun to keep them this way. I have a couple more just globe ones, or ones that I've shaped slightly into a round pattern on this back area, but every so often I like having one of these. Now, I usually try to keep these year to year. And again, sometimes over the winter, it can be kind of an issue because they don't love, you know, the indoor area I put them. They can be prone, it seems like, to maybe either some scale, or if you don't keep them watered evenly, they don't like. So I do my best, but every so often I add a new one. And then here beside it, you can see we have what looks like a tall, there it is, tall Meyer lemon. So it's a Meyer lemon, which I love Meyer lemon. They're a little bit more floral, almost more sweet, I would say, than a traditional lemon, but they're just a lot of fun. Now you can see when they get a lemon to be more of a tree, because it kind of has more of a shrub habit, you can see how they train it and prune it all along and pick one leader trunk and then keep just training it against a stake or something, and that's what keeps it going upright. And then when it gets to the height you want, you just nip it off at the top and it wants to branch out. So that's the point it's at, and I'm gonna plant it in, both of these in terracotta. I like terracotta for any of these items that I put on this area because they drain really well. They have drainage obviously in the bottom, but also air can pass through terracotta easier, and I think it helps to evenly just kind of control the moisture level of these things. I want them to dry out well. Now I'm filling them with my all-purpose potting soil. For citrus, for all those things, I still fill it with the all-purpose potting soil. But then what I do with citrus is I will amend it with citrus tone, because you know what? Citrus are kind of used to different, obviously, climates, different soil than we have. And I think it's just great to add some citrus tone into them when I'm planting them. And then every year from here on out, I always will add more citrus tone because they're in a container. They don't get everything they need from a container, so it just helps them along. Now what I did was mix the citrus tone down into the soil that I have about part way up on this container. And then you can see when I pulled out this citrus, it's just about the right height. Now citrus is usually when you buy it planted in a really kind of bark heavy, lightweight soil. And that's because they want it to drain well, which is super important with citrus. They don't want to be waterlogged. They like to dry out slightly in between waterings. And so that's why a lot of times in these containers are going to have a more barky soil, which works well. I like to though use, it has that soil still on its roots, but then I put it with my all-purpose potting soil. Now, a lot of times I will still use, when there's soil like this left, I will put it back around the plant because I think it still has a good quality to it and it will work well. So I will still use this along with my all-purpose potting soil and just break it up, make sure it's nicely around it, and then just pot it. Now, since this citrus, hey there, it's like 3-4 foot tall, which I'm pretty excited about because it's hard to find those. You can see all along, since it has more of a shrub habit, it gets these little suckers that want to come out. And so those I always just kind of take off because we don't want the citrus to grow down here. We want it to put all of its energy up into that top growth. So I will always nip off any of the ones that want to come out down below, and then it will kind of more promote that up top. So I'm going to pot this up. And I'm checking to see where its root flare is. I'm a big stickler on root flare. And it can be hard on these type because they are, they are kind of just trained and they're more shrub-like. But if you see here, it starts branching off into a root. That's a root flare right there. So I will expose that just slightly to make sure it's not planted too deep, and then I'll be good to go. So I did end up removing about 1 inch of soil down on this trunk to make sure I expose the root flare, which the stability is what I'll have to watch, so I'll have to make sure the stake really does keep it straight. But I really do think the root flare on a citrus that's potted is just as important as the trees I plant in the ground. So I have this now all potted up. I put some more potting soil to make sure it was full. And then I will move this before I water it so it doesn't get too heavy. But now we can talk about the rosemary. I love rosemary. To me, it is just, not only is the smell beautiful, it has a beautiful structure, it has a beautiful look, but also it's really fun to keep year to year and use in the kitchen. So rosemary, what I notice is often when I buy one that's growing and has some good height and size to it, it's really tight. Now these tight, I've talked about this, but these tight roots are really hard for them to really just accept the moisture when we water them because they're so tight in there. And it can be dry in the middle even though you water it. So I'm gonna really chop this root up. And I know that sounds surprising, but a lot of times what I'll do is just put it down here on the ground. I'm gonna get a shovel. And this kind of can scare people, which that's completely fair. But you know what? This is really good for the plant. I'm gonna actually give it some deep cuts all the way around just by taking a spade, chopping down into it. And do you see how I'm just breaking it up? So once it's broken up, I can start scarifying and opening these roots up. That's really important because they're so tight. They have a memory of this shape and this tightness. I wanna loosen them up so they grow out new roots into the pot I'm gonna plant it in. I'll be a lot happier. So you can see now what I did was really chop up some of those roots. I really broke it apart. This is just the pole it has a bamboo stake in it from training it into its shape. But now what I can do is check the level, which I can see it's a little low in that container. I don't want to ever plant anything too low. So what I did was just put my favorite soil here and I just put it into a smaller container. I do that a lot so I can grab it as I'm working and throw it in. And then you don't have to mess with the bag. But okay, that's gonna be just perfect. And what I'm doing, you can tell, is going about a container 1.5 to 2 times bigger than the size it was in, which would be right here, because I want it to have room to grow. Rosemary can be actually a pretty vigorous grower, so I wanna make sure it has plenty of room and it's happy for maybe a couple of years. So I'm gonna put soil back around it and we'll have it ready to go. Okay, I set them in here by the bench, which I need to do weeding in here now on my gravel. Just one of those spring and summer projects to get to, but I now just want to water them since they're both setting here. I really love the height of this lemon already, which I may nip it one more because it still feels like it wants to dominate on this side and I really want to branch off and now be a more tree shape up there. But now that they're in their place, I can just water them easily because I don't care about the weight now. It would have been a little heavy for me. I mean, I could have done it, but don't break your back. Move things when they're lightweight, water them in place. Now these obviously need even watering throughout the summer. They're in containers, so they can dry out when we get really harsh and dry in the middle of the summer with wind, and then they'll just need even watering, which oftentimes I have a large hose that reaches most parts of my yard and I'll do it with that. But right now I'm just doing it with a can because it's just a little bit easier. and I'm gonna mow today, and I didn't want the hose to be in the middle of the yard. So both these are watered, full sun. They'll be super happy. Every so often I will come out to the rosemary. Obviously I'll use it in the kitchen, but I also, if I need to, will trim it up and shape it to keep it somewhat of a cone, kind of topiary shape, just because it's a little bit more fun that way. And since it's already shaped that way, it's pretty easy to keep it. So I'll keep you posted. We'll see when we have lemons. I think I have a lemon or a lime on one of my other trees at the moment that's just beginning, so hopefully soon. In general, I find that as a gardener, we like to play, we like to have fun, and every time I grow or get a new citrus, I learn something. I learn something about it. What I've learned is citrus tone really makes a difference. Staking it properly really makes a difference. And then somewhat even moisture for me throughout the summer really helps, because my summers can be really harsh, and the terracotta pots help them dry out well, but then I need to make sure I watch watering. The leaves will curl or want to turn yellow if they're not getting enough water, especially as they're setting fruit. They need ample water. So I want to go mow today. It's my mow day. Thanks for helping me plant though. That always helps. As always, when you share these videos, it helps me immensely, but it helps everyone else see how easy and fun gardening can be. It's doable. If I can do it, you can do it, and guess what? We all learn every time. I'm continually learning, as I know you are too. So you can always check my website, wiseguide.com, for tips, for tricks, and for recipes. Maybe not for using lemons from your own tree, but you can always purchase lemons, and there's some good lemon recipes on there too. But until next time, go plant something. You'll love it.